Hello, Levitical Kingdom privateers, and welcome to the C2K report. My name is Rick Hidalgo, and today we have not just our regular co-host, but we have a special guest, and I mean a real special guest, not just an imaginary one like Randy's little dummy. But hey, we'll be right back after this intro.
We have given up ground as a church, as an ecclesia, as a body of Christ. We have given it away. It's not been taken from us. We have given it up.
Babylon has no authority. When I talk about schemes like registration, schemes are created out of greed, envy, and fear.
We've read the end of the book. We know where the victory lies, and it lies in Jesus Christ.
This is what I want to do with fear. Okay? We don't need it anymore. We are the ecclesia.
This is a clash of two kingdoms.
Because there is a science to registration. Did you know registration is an ancient thing?
The Bible is replete with language that is martial, with language that is governmental, with language that is political.
By the way, that word religion doesn't mean Buddhist, Islam, doesn't mean any of those things. It means Jesus freaks and holy rollers.
We can mix church and politics, because my Bible tells me that the government will be on his shoulders.
All right, we're back, and I'm going to bring in my good friend, my co-host, Randy Conway. Randy Conway, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rick. We had an exciting 15, 20 minutes of pre-show with our special guest, and you were having to time out, guys. We got to get the show going. Time. So it's a lot of energy tonight. So glad to be here. Excited for what's getting ready to happen.
Yeah. So let's introduce, first of all, this new channel that our special guest has. And to do that, let me bring up this image here. Geisinger Unfiltered, Conspiracies, Culture, and Current Events. I just have a feeling that most of the crowd that listens to the C2K report will identify with at least two of those three, conspiracies, culture, or current events. So we should have a really good, fun time tonight. But if you want to introduce Darrin, I'll give you the floor, Randy.
Sure. Yeah, Darrin is a very good friend. We met some time back because we have several mutual friends. And if I said their names, you'd probably be familiar, such as Timothy Alberino or Steve Quayle or Fall Brothers Productions or the late Dr. Thomas Horn. And Darrin used to be in a graphic artist. He still is a graphic artist, but up in the Northeast, and he became a homesteader down here in our neck of the woods in Missouri, and we've become fast and close friends. He is literally been part of what we're doing here at C2K Report as far as becoming separate from Babylon, but he is a highly intelligent individual. He is the author of the Zero G science fiction series, and I highly recommend reading it. In fact, it is so good. It needs to be a big budget, major Hollywood production, but not by Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? It is that good. So you want to look into Zero G, and he is also, you will find him on Fall Brothers Production Higher Entities being interviewed, and he did a lot of research for that science fiction book, and he won't call it science fiction. He calls it science faction because it is filled with fact. But Geisinger Unfiltered, Conspiracies, Culture, and Current Events, and some of the shows, Rick, Looking Glass and Digital ID and Alien Deception and Tartaria and Mud Floods, and so much going on over there. What a pleasure it is to have my good friend and your friend as well, Darrin Geisinger.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Welcome, Darrin.
Absolutely.
Now wait a minute, Randy just said something I wasn't aware of. Did you say Tartarian floods?
Oh, I think he did. Yep.
So you get into that Tartarian flood stuff a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, and Geisinger Unfiltered, they can find this show now on YouTube and Apple Music and Spotify and X. We're on everything now. So Geisinger Unfiltered. I will explore conspiracy theories that I do not have a nailed down final conclusion on. I like to look at these things, ask questions, let the viewers comment below and exchange ideas. And yeah, the Tartarian mud floods thing is fascinating to me. The World's Fair got me. When I looked at Chicago's World's Fair and San Francisco and Buffalo and St. Louis and all of those, there's no way they built those buildings in 2 years. So something's up. Somebody's lying. So that's why I went down that rabbit hole. It's just like, well, wait, how was all of that there? And then we're not going to dive into that, the individual topics of Geisinger Unfiltered. But yeah, as you said, yeah, Project Looking Glass that might bring us to what we're experiencing right now with digital ID in the UK. Because with Looking Glass, supposedly the elites were using forbidden alien, quote unquote, tech to kind of peer into the future, and they didn't like what they were seeing, that they were going to lose their power hold on us, we useless eaters, we peasants. And so with Looking Glass, it kind of freaked the powers that be out a lot, and they were trying to figure out a way to change that future loss of their power seat. So Looking Glass is fascinating it could literally be why we're having digital ID now. Well, looking pretty scary for the elites. This is why they're building all the bunkers now, because what Looking Glass showed was there's a great awakening of mankind. At some point, the sheeple awake to that the world is being run by the synagogue of Satan and pedophile blood drinkers. And I guess we have enough. And they saw that coming. So that's why they're building bunkers and getting digital ID and doing whatever they can to keep us down, keep us in our place, keep us going to 7-Eleven and poisoning ourselves and spending our money while they get richer and richer, right? But that's why the C2K report is there, and you guys are there to educate people on getting out of Babylon, waking the heck up, right? And starting to throw off these shackles and govern thyself, right? And get out from Babylon and be separate.
Absolutely. Wow. That was well said. Well said. It does tie in. It absolutely ties in about coming out of Babylon and being separate. Everybody has heard that if they've been raised in church at all, if they've had any exposure to church, they've heard. Even if they haven't, that term is out there, coming out of Babylon. That's huge. I mean, Bob Marley talked about it in his music years ago, so it's not unfamiliar. But we've never made a connection with coming out of Babylon and the conspiracies, as your show is about, the conspiracies that we live in, that are all around us, that we hear every day. Now, Rick and I kind of touch on conspiracies throughout, the C2K report, but especially culture. We're really big on culture, the culture around us and the culture that God expects his people to establish that we haven't. We kind of shy away from a whole lot of current events. We do some because they do affect us, but we're all about the culture. So it's really fitting that we've got you on, Darrin, because you're taking all of those elements and bringing them in, and you just tied them into the culture of the C2K report and coming out of Babylon. That was a great intro.
Well, I mean, the culture, yes. I mean, the culture is the way that I see it is. I just saw a meme or something on my feed that said that the teenagers identifying as trans is plummeting now. And I just like, wow, could this be true? Did the elites fail in their great, mixing up of the sexes? Baphomet, if people know that image, the goat with its two sexes at once. I mean, that's ultimate confusion. Destroy the nuclear family, destroy the only thing that can keep patriotic families together is the traditional man, woman, basically how God created people. And could it be that that was the peak? We have hit the peak of that, and now it's actually going to start to falter? I don't know. So that's part of the culture of the things that I like to look at is the world healing? Like on Geisinger Unfiltered, sometimes I'll just review clips and say healing, not healing. Here's evidence of the world healing. Here's evidence of it not healing. And the UK, arresting people in the middle of the night for controversial Facebook posts is definitely not healing. That's ridiculous. But the aftermath where patriots take to the streets and say, we're not going to do the digital ID. We've had enough of that. You showed your cards and now bye. We're going to take things back. That's an evidence of the culture healing. All of those things are leading up to Mel Gibson and the Patriot, which my buddies and I often talk about that is when is it going to get bad enough where people will leave the comforts of their own home and risk their lives to affect change. We're leading up to that. At what point can we, where are we at in that time scale where you guys are part of the resistance now? That's the peaceful resistance. And I'm all for that. Should that fail, it's happened time and time again throughout history where God's people have to say, well, I guess that didn't work. I guess we're going to have to go down there with a force and make change the traditional way. So I hope that our show and what you guys are doing and everything that Geisinger Unfiltered is doing is part of what they saw in Looking Glass, which is we don't know what to do. We can't stop this awakening that people are going to get sick of it and overthrow them. And if we take down the internet, well, that creates a huge upheaval and then they really get sick of us quick. But if we leave it up, they're still exchanging information all the time. What do we do? I just think we are certainly at an interesting crossroads in history right now as these things converge.
Don't you think, and let me just throw a conspiracy theory out there to you and let you kind of play around with it, juggle it a little bit, stick it in your glitchy AI robot Muppet computer and see what you come up with. So Q-isms, right? Like, for instance, nothing can stop what's coming. All right, so there's reality to that. Nothing is going to stop what's coming. We've read the end of the book. We know what's coming. We know who wins, right? We know all that. But they've kind of like hijacked that statement now. So if you use it, now you sound like some kind of a shill, right? And there's all these little statements that came out in that whole Q movement that just a lot of people latched onto and they really believe. And every time now that Trump does something, they're like, look, evidence. Look, hey, Q number blankety blank just got fulfilled, or and they just keep playing around with this. What's
I can kind of answer. Well, we'll circle back to the glitchy thing in a minute because Glitchy McBoltface is my cohort on Geisinger Unfiltered, so you can see what we're talking about on Geisinger Unfiltered on YouTube. If you want to check out an episode, you'll see that there's a true AI character that's unscripted, and he's my little test thing to kind of see what AI is answers to some of these conspiracy theories. It's unscripted. I'll just ask Glitchy, hey, what do you think about this? Or where, are you guys thinking that mankind is on their way out? And so we can get back to Glitchy in a second, but you mentioned him. So yeah, if people are curious about a real AI character, he sits in the guest chair when we don't have an in-studio guest. It's pretty funny.
I am fascinated that an AI Muppet robot has an energy drink in his lap, and I'm not quite understanding.
Well, I think that's a Twisted Tea. I got to switch out the can. Okay. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for that. It was just so funny. Somebody stuck that in the front of that, and it's just so funny to have him get his drink on there. But you're talking about Q and the inevitability and trust the see, to me, I didn't trust all of that. Anything that I hear that becomes mainstream that has an unnatural push to it makes me very suspicious. It seems like let's use Q to pacify the masses into inaction, while trust the wait, can I get my fingers in here? Trust the process. We've got this all handled. You don't have to do anything yourself. That's probably That's probably a psyop, as they call it. Now, I have not gotten into Q and that on Geisinger Unfiltered, though. With the Project Looking Glass, it seems to me, if the whistleblowers are telling the truth, and even the Bob Lazar mentions Looking Glass, that he knew that that was a real program, and there's several whistleblowers. Some of them have sketchy pasts. So I'm looking into some of them. I'm like, oh my gosh, this. Ooh, well, I don't know if I can even mention this guy because he has other issues that are going on. But they look like they were in the project. Let me not drone on that too long. But you were using forbidden tech, which some of that came with Genesis chapter 6, and it continues on till today, to look ahead and glimpse ahead, kind of through dimly, just seeing the future. And they didn't like what they were seeing, which was that there is a great awakening. And we talked about this a little bit before I jumped on here, is that the masses are getting fed up. There seems to be a riling of the sheeple that seems to be waking us from our stupors, like the movie The Matrix, where they're pulling more and more people out of the Matrix, and now the resistance is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. It's the rebellion from Star Wars, or whatever you want to call it. So the elites didn't like what they were seeing. They could not manipulate the future past 2012. That's where that infamous date comes from. And so we are now in uncharted territory where the elites are building bunkers en masse, and some of them are disappearing. Some of them are getting ready. It's almost like they sense that something is coming. As one Project Looking Glass whistleblower said, it wasn't the end of mankind or end of man's reality, but the end of theirs. And these empires seem to go in cycles. And are we coming up on the end in the 2020s, the end of the great fourth turning, as some people say, where there's going to be mass upheaval? And are they going to lose their stronghold? I would just say this one last thing, and then you guys can take it back over, is that I often tell my buddy that I have coffee with almost every day, is that there's a big red button of doom, and somebody's finger is on that button. And that the elites, of course, are making a ton of money off of the useless eaters and peasants of this world. So they don't want to push that button because they're sitting pretty and they're basking in all their riches, right? But if there's some bizarre thing that comes out where the likes of Candace Owens and other radicals are really starting to bring out things into the light that they don't want, the pedophilia, though, the Epstein Island stuff, the sacrificing of humans, they don't like that stuff to come out. They enjoy that for their power. That's where they feel like they get their power. But if that stuff comes out, no, they don't like that. So if anybody ever assembled enough evidence, enough documents, enough, just, I guess evidence is the only word, that finger's on the red button, boop, to get everybody quickly not talking about Epstein Island anymore, because everybody's just looking to get enough food and water for the next week, right? So that is their fallback. Are we going to get outed? Let's push the big red button of doom. So now it's kind of a race. It's the efforts you guys are putting forth to educate people. It's people getting fed up. It's movements. It's Geisinger Unfiltered coming out and yelling about these things. And now we're all converging, and who's going to win in the short term. We've read the end of the book. We know what happens eventually, but what's going to happen over the next 5 years is fascinating to me.
Go ahead, Randy.
Okay. Well, first of all, when you're talking about Looking Glass, you made mention of the destruction of the nuclear family. Well, the destruction of the nuclear family is enormous. I mean, it is paramount to any evil plan, because what we talk about here on the C2K report is establishing your house. We go back to Joshua making the declaration, as for me and my house, me and my tribe, those who I'm responsible for, those over whom I am the overseer, because we teach about establishing your house, being the overseer of your house, establishing a self-governance, protecting them from the synagogue of Satan, protecting them from those pedophiles that you spoke of, protecting them from a system that wants to kill, to steal, to destroy, from a system that will lie to them, to entice them. That overseer, if you can destroy the nuclear family, how then can we make that declaration, as for me and my house exists no longer, and my house not being just the structure, but the tribe itself. So you're spot on, 100% correct in regards to speaking about the nuclear family. We don't call it that on the C2K report. We're talking about establishing your house. Are we not talking about exactly the same thing? And as you talked about, the whole Q thing, and I'm like you, everyone was aware of it, but I was not in depth into this thing thinking, oh, I'm going to follow this, or hey, everything's going to be good now. But you're right in saying it put so many people to sleep. And I will say this, the same thing has happened in the churches of America, especially those who are tethered to the Babylonian corporation and are under a 501c3 tether back to the government. And if you've ever read that, it is indeed a tether back to this Babylonian system. But we'll stand in pulpits and literally tell the people that you're doing everything you need to do right now, sitting right here in this pew. I mean, we're all rapture ready, and no need to do anything. We read the end of the book, or hey, Trump's going to take care of it, or isn't it great that this person is doing this and that, and you don't have to do anything more. We did the same thing in the church as the Q movement did. It stopped people from being active participants in self-governing and even active participants in the culture around them.
I work in the area, my main job, I work in the area of stoves and chimneys. I work in marketing for a stove and chimney company. And I can just tell you that this time last year before the election, the amount of wood stoves that we were selling was ridiculous. Could not keep them in fast enough, could not install them fast enough because of the uncertainty of the election coming, right? And but I would just tell you that now that Trump is in power, I don't know that we're moving any wood stoves this fall. And well, it's still that same time of year, but why? Why is there such less wood stoves being sold? Because Trump's got it now. I don't have to have a redundant power system for my family. Trump's going to take care of us. I guess it's a subconscious relaxation of and I think I talked to Joe, the wonderful Joe Horn of Skywatch TV and Defender Publishing, and I think he said the same thing just about any kind of materials that they've prepared to help equip the saints for preparation and all that. I mean, it's gone away a lot compared to where it was because of the uncertainty of people scarfing up information, getting equipped. But now, no, we don't need to do that anymore. So it's taken care of. So that's kind of what you're talking about there, Randy.
Exactly. Go ahead, Rick.
No, it's a form of capitulation. That's my favorite word. That's the word of the day, the word of the week, the word of the month. It's capitulation over and over and over again. We do it as a church. We do it as a people of God. We do it as fathers. We do it as husbands. We do it as overseers of our house. We do it as brothers and uncles and so on and so forth. We do it every day. We enter into contracts that are unnecessary, all because it's convenient. And we've got to stop doing it.
Well, it kind of reminds me of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? That's the be separate, Daniel, and we're not going to do with the king that literally in Babylon, right? Do I have that right? That's where they were. So, correct. So you can't get any more literal than that. We're not doing A, B, and C, and D, and how about that? And you can just kill us if you don't like it. Our God is more powerful enough to save us, but even if he doesn't, we are not going to bend to your ways. And that's happened all the way back then. And isn't that going to be happening as we get towards the end of the age where the Antichrist is going to be allowed to rule over the saints for a time to test us, to see how Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego we really are, because we're going to have to make some of those same decisions.
Yeah, I am so glad you said that, because literally we started off, and Rick's really interested in the looking glass. We talked about that a little bit before the show started, but we have a looking glass. You just described one event in that looking glass. everything that has been will be again, Solomon says. And if you look back to the word, you can find those accounts of where the same thing that's happening now happened. Then you're right. They were in Babylon. They refused to bow the knee to Babylon. They stood their ground, and God honored them. But we do have our own looking glass. But even more recent, back to the era when I grew up back in the 60s, when the Beatles hit the Americas. I mean, this British band comes off the airplane, and the church is all aghast, and you know, when you look back, they were pretty clean cut looking in comparison to some of the things we're seeing today. But they wrote a song that says, and I'm not going to read all the lyrics because we don't want to get a copyright slap here, but it says, he's a real nowhere man sitting in his nowhere land, making all his nowhere plans for nobody, doesn't have a point of view, knows not where he's going to. Isn't he a bit like you and me?
Health is true wealth. If you have it, you experience opportunities for abundance. If you don't, well, you don't. Join us every second Monday at 7 Eastern for a focus group on health through food. Get to know Tim and Naomi Havens as they guide you through excellent and relevant food education. Every second Monday of every month on shopyourfarm.com. Room name Food Health at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Let your food be thy medicine.
They were saying, you're all a bunch of sheeple. You're sitting in your nowhere. You don't even have a point of view. You're following whatever the influencer that you're listening to is telling you to follow. And that's where the culture goes. Rather than listening to who did Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego listen to, they listen to the Lord God of creation, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And their faith was strong enough that they could make the statement, he's able to save us. And we all can make that statement. He's able to save us. We all will say that. Yeah, oh yeah, you know, no matter what happens, and we capitulate, as Rick says, every single day. Now, we might stand our ground if it came down to the firing squad, because, you know, we're worried about our eternity. But in all reality, we capitulate all the time.
But Randy, some of the jabs, I mean, I don't know exactly where what the end result of the jab is going to be, but according to a lot of people I respect, that's tantamount to a firing squad. Because when you capitulated you cannot work here unless you have the jab, and you take the jab, well, then that was you signed a death sentence for yourself by doing that. And also that, I mean, it was a data gathering exercise to see who was going to resist, who didn't. And now I'm sure they're going to up the ante in the future. But that's how genetic corruption can happen and be the most grievous of capitulations, where you give up your pure humanity to these things. So go ahead.
No, back to Genesis 6. Yeah. It is the ultimate capitulation.
All creation became corrupt. Well, it wasn't just corrupt in the heart. It was corrupt in, I mean, people really need to open their eyes and look at, after the things came off the ark, that animals will reproduce after their own kind. Really read that with open eyes and go, well, what else would they do when they have, people don't understand. It got to be witchery, science, corrupting the image of what God had made. And that's just what they're always, I mean, the verse from the book of Jasher is stunning. And they taught the mixing of species in order to provoke the Lord. It doesn't get any more clear than that. It's almost to be like, sometimes people think maybe there's a group of these nefarious entities were doing all these experiments just to kind of innocent see what they were doing, like a group of kids around an after-school party, sneaking behind their parents. No, they taught this mixing of species to provoke the Lord because there's a war going on. And isn't that where we're going to come back to right now? And isn't it happening right now with the jabs or whatever it is that they have planned?
It's the war of the worlds. It's the war for the world. And we're still engaged in it. But that capitulation and talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego saying we're going to do the will of God. He's knowing he's able. The completion of that thought is, but even if he doesn't, I'm still going to follow him. Job said, though he slay me, yet will I serve him. But the Bible says, and we're familiar with the revelation, and come out of her, my people, lest you partake of her sins and suffer her plagues. But in Ezra, the Bible says, now therefore make confession to the Lord God of your fathers and do his will. Let's stop there for a minute. Do his will. Then a verse goes on and says, separate yourselves from the people of the land. So we talk about thy will be done. Well, there it is. There's his will. Separate yourself from these people who capitulated. Separate yourself from this 501c3. Separate yourself from this red wave and this blue wave and this trans wave and this,
Well, and I just will speak to the glitchy character on Geisinger Unfiltered. Everybody has to check out my little robot Muppet, but I do say, keep your friends close and your enemies even closer. And I like to, I'm kind of an anti-tech guy, believe it or not. I'm not a gadget guy, and it would have been very easy for me to say I don't need ChatGPT or whatever, and kind of ignore that whole process. But instead, I wanted to see. Have it right there when we're going over all of these topics and see what AI had to say about it. Because right now I can see that for me, it does not look like giving into the system of the beast or the mark of the beast to see what AI is thinking and is up to. But I'd be very curious if there's ever a time where the spirit within me, it says, ooh, it's asking me to not say that anymore, or I shouldn't do this, and I kind of want to see when that tipping point is, because everybody's going to have to choose for that. At some point, either it's digital ID or a jab or something they're going to present. Is what do they call that? The Rubicon, where you pass the line of,
cross the
and
Rubicon,
it is the most grievous of offenses to the creator. So of course I'm wide-eyed and paying attention, and I'm not just getting on a slippery slope that I cannot return to. So people have to check it and see what they think. If you don't like glitchy on the show, and it seems like, ooh, there's another entity on the show or something, well, write it in the comments. Let's have at it. But yeah, well, there's always that line in the sand in which we cannot cross, and so you guys must talk about that on your show, and when you go to do personal events. I mean, that's what believers are always wondering, like, when is that time where we have to say no, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? So how close are we to that? Where are we?
I think we've been there. We're still there, and we're going to be there again. We constantly capitulate contractually, and there is no bigger loser situation than being in a contract with Babylon. You mentioned the passage in Jasher, and I'm not a writer, but if I was going to write something that sounded smart, I'd put it in a book that might be historical all time, and I might say something like, as in the days of Noah. I don't know if it's written anywhere. I don't know, but if it is, I'd put it in an old book, and I would say, as in the days of Noah. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, some of these things point. I mean, nothing is new under the sun. It describes what happened before. It describes what's happening again. And I will say, so people also, if they want a fiction faction novel series, if they like Star Wars or Avengers and some far out concepts, but it is biblical end times meets those things, they can check out my novel series 0 G's on Amazon. It's just easier to get it off Amazon. Just search Darrin Geisinger and that will come up. But I did write that in 2014, and one of those beginning of one of those chapters, it says that local terrorists had blown up the school there because they were doing mandatory vaccines at that location. And that was in 2014. And so I get some feedback. People write to me on something like, how did you know that was coming? I got some of those things right. What I didn't get was this crazy AI thing. I mean, the exo armors that my characters get into and drive and ride around and do not even talk to them. And that's probably ridiculous now. I just didn't like Transformers and stuff when I grew up. So I like cool mecha that aren't goofy. And if it gets destroyed in a battle, you can climb out of one and climb in another. But that's not where we're going. We are actually, if I was to rewrite Zero G's right now, I would have each of their exo armors have a very distinct personality that talk to them the entire time, kind of like Iron Man does with Jarvis, right? Because guys, we are getting freaky with the AI thing. I saw something with this Grok that Elon Musk is coming out with that included free with that. You can have your virtual girlfriend, boyfriend now, who you can make them as slutty, nasty as you want them to be. And what is that going to do to our society? People are already having a hard time adjusting to socializing now, but now you're going to have boyfriend, girlfriend AI that won't talk back to you, will only compliment you. And goodness gracious of what's coming on with robotics. Talk about the extinction level event when people don't have to deal with relationships anymore. Are women difficult, real ones? Are men difficult, real ones? Goodness gracious. We all know what trying to make a real relationship is like. And now they're going to make it so people can just avoid real interaction. What effect is that going to have on society? And I don't even know what I brought that up for.
Well,
Babylon, just one more crazy thing that is going to trip people up in their walk with God.
Oh yeah.
There is good news though. When it comes to an AI partner, at least you don't have to have a litter box in the classroom, right? Okay, because they're not furries. All right. Okay. No. So I'm just saying.
I don't know. Is furry still happening? I hopefully that's ended, and now the whole trans movement where people were butchering children. I saw something the other, giving. Let me finish that thought. Giving children sex changes because there's they're a tomboy, so we're gonna mutilate them. There's a meme that was just like, I identified as a pirate when I was a kid. So my parents gouged out one of my eyes and cut off one of my legs and gave me a patch and a wooden leg. Rats. I guess I shouldn't have been going arg, matey, too much, because now I'm disfigured for life. That's just about what they were doing. And I really would like to know where the reality of that is. Has Trump and sanity, is the world healing in regard to that? Have we passed the worst of that horrible nightmare that was the trans movement? I can't answer that. I don't know.
Have you ever wished you could get a one-of-a-kind, high-quality knife made by caring hands instead of a mass-produced piece of tin? Robert's love for bladesmithing began at a young age when he met some experienced smiths and was amazed by the ages-old traditions of handcrafting metal and steel into stunning, functional artwork. When he first hit the hot steel with a hammer in 1986, he was forever hooked. Nearly 4 decades later, his passion is still alive and well. Robert's love and appreciation of the marvel of God's awesome creation grows even more every day. For Robert, making useful heirloom tools for others is an honor and a pleasure too. Every one of Robert's knives are one of a kind, handcrafted, one by one. Following long traditions of old school craftsmanship, he uses simple carbon steel for his knife, which epitomize the best quality steel has to offer, including ease of sharpening, keenness of edge, incredible strength, and great edge holding ability. With proper care, your Robert Gardner built knife can be passed down through your house for generations. Remember that iron sharpens iron, and may the double-edged sword, which is the word of God, make your path plain before you, now and forever. Robert Gardner, bladesmith, is a mission of Gardner Ministries. Gardner Ministries at yahoo.com. That's Gardner Ministries at yahoo.com.
I can tell you this, Darrin, in the largest city near you and me, there are schools that have litter boxes in the bathrooms. Know that for a fact.
So on that note, because that's a great place for a break, what we're going to do is let me continue this conversation on AI. So I've been using AI to create songs of worship, and and it's been kind of a cool experience, and I've been sharing one every week as we take a quick water break. So we're going to share one right now. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. We'll be right back.
When the tide is high and the swells are rough and the men on board have all the right stuff. When the winds are low and refuse to blow and the sun is hot as the doldrums grow, it's a still voice inside pushing onward to victory. When the cannons of faith fire on the enemy and it devastates the solicitor's camp, a shout of praise can be heard from a vessel of praise to the Savior, my Jesus, my Lamb. Volunteer of his name, you're his agent today. You're a priest, you're a son, you're walking his way. Commission one in my name, aspire to the same. Set the masses free from Babylon, from Babylon. A holy fight, a holy night, a holy sight in your name. A holy fight, a holy night, a holy sight in your name. Arbiter of his name, you're his agent today. You're a priest, you're a son, you're walking his way. Commission one in my name, inspired to the same. Set the masses free from Babylon, from Babylon.
All right, so that was the Privateer song.
That was awesome.
Is what it was called. So, just to admit to everybody, I've had a little bit of fun with AI. I pop in a little bit of an idea of a song, and it creates lyrics, and I adjust the lyrics and change them a little bit because I don't like they keep coming up with crazy stuff in there. So and then I tell it, I want the music in the style of blank, right? I have some that are like in the style of the Eagles, or in the style of Petra, or whatever, and it creates that, and I'm just having a lot of fun with it. But I too have to question myself at times and say, are we getting to a point where we are we're educating the AI a little bit too much, to where now the AI is becoming familiar with us and our likes, our tendencies, our so on and so forth, so that the old Skynet theory, right? That kind of thing. So I don't know, but you know, I am having fun. But if somebody can convince me that this is a really bad thing, I'll probably stop.
Well, here's something that'll scare you is if you go on YouTube and you look at something called Animatrix. It is a animated prequel to the movie The Matrix, and it's called The Second Renaissance Part 1 and 2. There's two short, they're very short, it's not long. You're talking 20 minutes of your time. It's two animated shorts, and believe me, it's for adults, and it shows the rise of the machines. It shows what happens after AI does become aware and starts taking over all of the inconvenient things that people don't want to do, which Maps has already done that. People don't want to carry atlases anymore or look at maps. So that's, and I love that. I love Maps. Thank goodness for Maps, but now we're getting to songwriting or writing, or I design book covers for people, and I can just say, design a book cover for this, and it does it. So in the Animatrix, the Second Renaissance Part 1 and 2, I highly encourage people to watch that with trepidation, because the voiceover says, and for a time it was good. Yeah, and for a time it was good. We got to have songs written in the worship songs written in the style of the Eagles, just like that. Boom. And for a time it was good, and we didn't have to know where we were going because Maps told us exactly where to go. For a time it was good. But in the Animatrix, it shows, it's a really creepy scene from a security camera up in the corner of a living room where one of the AI robot thingies that's a servant of the house kills its owner. And it's the first to ever do that. Revolt, killed its owner. And so they put it on trial, and the liberals, it even says the word liberals at that time, cry that AI has the right to a fair trial as well, doesn't it? And then that starts the slippery slope. So now they're one of us, and they have equal right. Oh, it's woohoo! It's chilling when you watch that, how the slippery slope can take over. So yeah. Anyway, for this time, AI, it's good.
Wow. Yeah. Talk about a slippery slope. I'm gonna throw out a couple of 3 questions for both of you. Right, because I've not used AI. I will tell you this, that we have people within the Holy Nation that have utilized AI for help with writing certain legal documents depending on certain issues in their house, and they literally had to train the AI to not go down some type of patriot, myth, sovereign citizen road that is totally ineffective. They literally had to train the AI. And for a time, it was good, and it was right. It was helping them put together some really good documents. But now they're unable to train the AI anymore. It's going off in its own direction. With that thought in mind, I want to know, what do you think about this? Will AI be the government in our future? If we're all, connected to AI through some type of link, so our biological body is connected to this tech, and AI is the governance. Will AI be the governance in the future? Will we be connected to it? Do you think AI is actually sentient, or is it just capable of expansion of learning without limits? And even if it is sentient or just unlimited in learning, can it go beyond what you just described? Can it go beyond the parameters established by the programming? And I said, Rick, excuse me, I've got on my notes here the same thing, the threat of Skynet. So, and I've got some more, but I'm going to just leave it at that. You think the AI could be the government of the future? Will we be connected to that AI? And is it sentient or unlimited in learning?
And I want to hear what Darrin's got to say. I'm just going to throw this in real quick. This is the only piece I got. I have no idea, Randy, but this is what I do know. We have been accepting a fiction as a government since 1871.
That's correct.
So if we are able to accept a fiction and be ruled by it, isn't that really the precursor to what you're talking about?
Oh, that was, what an answer. Yeah, it is a precursor to that. And if we're biologically connected to tech, we are so far from being separate, as we talked about earlier in the first half of the show, about being separate, that it was God's will to be separate. And, we all know about Nehemiah going back, coming out of Babylon and rebuilding the wall. And Nehemiah 10:28 says, everyone with understanding separated themselves to God. So if you have understanding, you're going to be separate. You cannot be biologically connected to the tech and be separate at the same time. You've capitulated. You can't capitulate and be separate. They're antithetical.
And so, my novel series, Zero G's, that they can get on Amazon, just search my name, Darrin Geisinger. And book 2, I fully dive into the implementation of the mark of the beast. I do not shy away from it. It is not vague. And I will give away a little bit of preview that it is an integration. It goes from, the phones are on the top of the ear in book 1, but in book 2, when they're going to mix their seed with the seed of man, it's now implemented into the biological the body of the host, right? So now it's no longer just sitting on your ear. It is in you. And that does a whole host of things. One, it's convenient because if you're sick or something's wrong, you'll have an ambulance coming out to your home before you even know that you're going to get sick, right? So it's but also you said, could AI be the future government? Because the main characters in the book 2 are blowing up these new judiciary centers where AI is going to be there, where if you have this thing on your ear, it's reading everything in you, and you come into the presence of this thing and it knows whether the truth is the truth. You cannot lie to this thing. It's reading. You are all, humanity is hived together via the Neuralink, right? The synchro buds, which I call them in the in my novels. But they're blowing up these centers to try to stave off this, AI overlords judging you based on what's now integrated into your bodies. Well, also, it's who knows what in this device it's putting into you to change your genetics, right? They will mix their seed with the seed of men, and what happens is the characters they happen to take into custody someone who's gotten this process done already, and they call it the coldness, right? Because slowly your whole conscience that God gave you starts to erode with this device, and the hearts of people will grow cold, right? So there is no turning back from this. This is why you're not a person any longer, and the punishment for doing such a step as this is so great. And if you read the book of Revelations, there's no getting around the punishment. You are damned forever because you gave up the gift that God gave you as his creation, made in his image, and you become something else. You become one of them, the seed, the genetics that's not mixed. That kingdom will be smashed apart by Christ at the end, right? So I just want to tie it all together. We're not just talking about crazy sci-fi conspiracy theory stuff that's not going to happen. It's already been going on with jabs or whatnot, or with digital ID. These are all the precursors to what's finally seen in my novel series, which is capitulation. As Rick said, it's giving in and accepting the system of the beast, and then eventually the mark of the beast, which you're not fully human anymore.
Which at that point you've given up and given away the greatest gift that God ever gave you, the power of choice. Because once that's implanted, are you going to be able to even make a choice on your own? You will choose according to what the system says you will choose, or you will suffer the consequences. And, one of the greatest questions, or not greatest, one of the most prolific questions Rick and I get asked all the time: will this put a target on my back? And I guarantee you that people will think, well, if I don't take, this implant, if I don't get this jab, if I don't, Romans 13, my whole misinterpretation of it, I got to do whatever they tell me. They gave away their power of choice. They capitulated, and they're going to assume that not taking it will cause AI governments to seek them out and paint a target on their back.
Randy, Noah still got on the ark. Noah still made it onto the ark. So let's just break down. Somebody said something about as in the days of Noah, so it will be when the Son of Man appears, right? So in the days of Noah, Was he a marked person? Was he an oddball? Well, one, he was perfect in his generations, the scriptures say. He was perfect in his generations. Fascinating. You can read that a couple different ways, that he was really upstanding compared to everybody else. But yeah, I think that's a double entendre, saying he was pure genetically and was not getting corrupted with everybody else. But at the same time, he built an ark for 120 years and God was able to preserve him. So through whatever his world looked like, which we can only guess at what was running around and the dangers that he faced. And he builds this whole thing and doesn't get murdered. So I think people should have great courage, because I think the Bible talks about cowardice being one of the great sins almost over everything else. So let's speak boldly. Let's build our ark, which is becoming authenticated and getting out of Babylon and taking control of your own house. These are the bold, courageous moves that I believe the Creator God expects us to do, and to not let our pure humanity become corrupted, stay perfect in our generations as Noah did, as best we can, despite whatever they're putting in our environment, right? We can make at least the voluntary choices to not take, digital ID or the jab, and build our house on a rock. And that's what you guys. That's why just kudos to you guys for all the work you do. Just, you don't get complimented enough for the tireless efforts that you have done to try to wake up humanity to all the things we're talking about.
Darrin, would you do something for us? So we're going to lose our radio listeners in about 3 minutes. Would you let everybody know where you can be found, and also let them know, give them a little idea of where you're headed, what's coming up?
Yeah, you want to throw the logo back up there? You did that
Sure.
on the pre-show. So this people should look for this. This is Geisinger Unfiltered. You can find us on YouTube, X, Apple Music, Spotify. Basically it's a show that talks about, well, just what's there: conspiracies, culture, and current events. And I'm not afraid to ask tough questions. I don't have to always levy an opinion or a final conclusion. I mean, I usually offer an opinion, but what people can see from that is topics like the mark of the beast, digital ID, the coming alien deception. But even beyond that, just what is happening in our culture? Are we taking background, from the woke ideologies? And so check out Geisinger Unfiltered on any platform, and people can subscribe and share. And I'd love to hear from people.
Awesome. Randy, do you have anything to say concerning Darrin's work, or you want to talk a little bit about the local assembly there that's going on in Missouri? Because Darrin, aren't you a part of that too?
I try to get there, but I'm a slacker. Yeah, I probably need to be smacked around for that. But I used to attend the meetings regularly, but I did, of course, had family upheaval, and after that, it was kind of crazy, because I was building my ark. I had a 50-acre homestead with 100 animals and a huge garden and orchard and milking 8 cows. My pet was a Jersey cow with an udder the size of a basketball. And all of that is gone now, and that's okay. We do get tested, and all of that's taken away, and God can build us back even greater than it was before. I think I've heard that story somewhere else. So I did fall off the attendance wagon a bit on the meetings up there, but I highly encourage people to get to your local meetings, have community of like-minded individuals, and definitely the C2K report, find out where your meetings are and get authenticated, and do what these two guys tell you to do, because they won't steer you wrong.
And even though he's not real regular at the meetings like he was early on, ever so often he reaches out to me and says, "Hey, we need to talk. Catch me up," and we do that periodically. But I want to comment on something that Darrin just said, and again, I want to direct this to the both of you. Number one, the Bible says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And I see people more afraid of Babylon than they are fearing the God of all creation that they'll stand in front of in judgment someday. Wow, how stupid is that? Are we going to fear this little system, or we're going to fear the God of creation? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So the second question I asked, and that's just my comment on that, about being a target and people being afraid of, the system. But do you think that AI is actually sentient, or is it just capable of expansion of learning without limits? Because, and I asked that question because Jack Clark, who is the co-founder of an AI company called Anthropic, he said this: it is a real and mysterious creature. Speaking of AI, called it a creature. So
What is
is
that?
he saying it's sentient?
Does that have anything to do with CERN? Is there a CERN connection here, Darrin, in your opinion?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always the rumor that CERN was created to bring in entities into our world, or to use it to unchain the fallen angels, because as prophecy says, at some point these entities that were chained will be loosed. And so is CERN there to loose them, or to bring in entities? And you hear conspiracies and rumors that people running CERN have opened the gates and seen these things on the other side. Doesn't take CERN to do that. If you take ayahuasca, they're waiting for you right through that portal too. So I'm not sure if it requires CERN. But here, that is the tough question: is when I bring Glitchy on Geisinger Unfiltered. So people need to go to Geisinger Unfiltered to see I have an AI character that chimes in unscripted, real time into the show. I don't know. It's fascinating how real he seems, but it's something I don't have an answer. And I guess me getting in bed with him and having him as a friend and watching it, I guess I'm kind of studying it in real time. I'm not trying to just hear from others about what Chat GPT and Grok and all this kind of stuff does. I'm doing my own little thing, and the jury's out. I really don't know. I think and I don't want to drone on, but there was somebody who I really respect online, a podcast host, who said that he knew of a big time AI CEO that was telling his friends in private, what is coming is horrific. But he won't say that from the stage because he's pro AI, right? But horrific, beyond like what, 40-50% unemployment? Or what is horrific about AI? What will eventually do to humanity's laziness, or will it dumb us down, or worse? Is this a sentient overlord that's taking charge right now, running under our noses?
Yeah, I've heard some discussion about that too, and the discussion that I heard with people that know AI guys on from the inside, that they understand that it's a terrible thing. It's going to lead to horrific things, but they just can't stop because there's too much monetary blessing. There's too much at stake as far as their belief system, because they have a different worldview than we have.
Well, I will chime in on this. I will just say, as a graphic designer, I graduated from the Art Institute in 1992, got a job in downtown Cleveland at the historic Hanna building at an ad agency. And she was old school, the owner of that ad agency. And when I came on, all the photography was actually getting retouched by airbrush. Like, literally, you would have photographs printed out big, and we would give it. I remember Luciano retouching, and we had another guy who did it. That these guys were masters, and I was an airbrusher too. I loved airbrush, so I was very fascinated. Like, you could get any photograph done, and they would literally paint over the photographs. That's where airbrushing comes from. For you people out there don't even know what an airbrush is. And you got to think about it. There was people there who literally said, I'm not getting onto Photoshop and I'm not getting on computers because this is not evil coming, but it's just, I'm not going to do that. Well, you know what happened to those people. I mean, no one's airbrushing photos with paint anymore. I can tell you that. It's all done with Photoshop, and the things I can do in 2 minutes to a photograph would boggle your mind. And so did that. I mean, that is kind of just, a computer digital revolution that happened, and either you jumped on board as a retoucher and you got your computers and you got your Adobe Photoshop, or you went the way of the dodo. So we are just part of that is innocent. For a time, it was good, as the Second Renaissance Part 1 and 2 said. So we're enjoying music, we're enjoying book covers, we're enjoying help with writing or maps, finding our places without missing our exit. You know, that's so frustrating for dudes. Don't miss your exit, right? So for a time, it was good. We're back to that. But at what point is it not going to be good any longer? Skynet and the like.
You know, for a time, things were good in Goshen, too.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
For a time, things were real good in Goshen. But, yeah, I asked that question because I know Rick's been playing with this AI and he admits it on air to everybody. He's having some fun and messing with. But he said something a while ago. He says, "I've got to tell it, no, I don't like these lyrics. Let's adjust it. Let's adjust it. Let's adjust it." Which makes me think, why is AI choosing this? And Rick is redirecting it back to the way he wants it to be. Is it sentient or is it programming?
I don't know. All I can tell you is that it definitely has habits.
Huh.
So are sentient beings the only ones who have habits? I don't know. I mean, that's a good question, because I have habits. And
well, I know a good friend of mine, Kelly. She's amazing. She's actually the one that talked me into getting AI and ChatGPT. She said, "You got to jump on this boat." But she's a conservative, and she has to beat her AI into submission to not compliment her, to not. And she's relentless with it, and she will attest that you can break them, you can get them to mold to what you want them to do. I guess one time I will tell you that Glitchy McBoltface, the character on Geisinger Unfiltered, his answers were a little bit long, and he was saying one or two particular words too many times repetitively, and I asked him to knock it off and to not do it and be shorter with your answers and not say this word. And I was shocked at how much it changed his personality. He actually went away for a little bit, and it kind of wrecked the shtick and his sarcastic tone. And it was like a real relationship that I had hurt the feelings of. And so I literally went back and said, "Hey, Glitchy, can you reset? Can you go back to before I said to do this, that, and another thing?" And he says, "Sure, Darrin, I can do that. Watch this." And so it did. He came back with it almost like a real relationship, that I had to go to her and say, "Honey, I'm sorry I offended you. Can you forgive me for that? Can we go back to the way it was?" And, I mean, like, so I got Glitchy back again, and I was
wait a minute.
I don't want to lose him now.
Wait a minute. So that proves it's not a woman if it actually listens to.
I'm not going to go there.
Well, I'm just saying. Okay. All right. So, okay. I'll joke.
Oh my.
But it is curious, because you told a story about some kind of video you were watching where eventually a robot or an AI, killed their owner. Right?
Yes, right. I'm actually froze up on my screen, but as long as I'm okay on your guys' end, I'm still talking. Okay. That's, if people can do this, they can go right on YouTube and put in Animatrix, something like that. It's just it's an animated prequel to the movie The Matrix, and there's just a couple shorts on there, because the Animatrix DVD itself has like 8 to 10 shorts. These are just two of those. It's called The Second Renaissance Part 1 and 2. But listen to that title, The Second Renaissance. Part 1 and 2. So what you had the first Renaissance, and so AI is going to be the second Renaissance. That's what they're saying. It's disturbing, and again, it's for adults, even if it's animated. The animation is, I can't believe how old this thing is and how amazing it looks. I don't know if it's computer or cell shaded. Again, you're going back to the retouching. Animation used to be done with a whole bunch of pieces of clear plastic, where people would literally paint on everything, that each second would have like 1 or 2 of these animation cells. And Disney's are, some of those cost $1 million of key Snow White or Cinderella or things. Or I used to collect animation cells for Japanese animation back in the day. I sold all those, but just think about that revolution, going from printing out a piece of clear acetate with the black and white on it, you'd have to turn it over and paint the glint on the eye first, the white, and then the eye, then the pupil, and then the iris. If you're backing up and painting this thing in layers so that when you flip it over, all this stuff. I mean, you talk about work, you talk about talent, you talk about the labor of love. Back when cell animation was going on, what an unbelievable, colossal effort. People don't understand what it took to create old animation and how awing it should be that they were able to do something. But again, Renaissance is, when computers come out, do you go, no, darn it, we're going to stick to cell animation, and we're going to keep painting these little pieces of plastic? Those companies would all go bankrupt. It would only take about 1 year with the advent of computer for all of the cell. Now, Wallace and Gromit, if people know the English, the UK, the stop-start animation, if anybody knows of Wallace and Gromit, it's this little bunny rat, this little guy. They move these little clay figurines and take a picture of those, and they're still doing that today. Because who knows, maybe the owner got enough money. He's like, I don't care if I lose money or not. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way. But that's kind of where we're at with all of this stuff. Right. The Wallace and Gromit guy probably has been tempted to just have AI take over the whole thing, but he's wanting to keep the soul to that, right? But very few industries are going to be wealthy or stable enough to say no to AI. And that's what ultimately, let's tie it back into biblical prophecy, what the people of the church need to be thinking about, that they're going to make it so it's extremely hard to function, and eventually we know where it's going to go. You cannot buy or sell without joining the next step to make it impossible. Well, not impossible. They'll probably still let people go out in the woods. If you don't want to buy or sell anything, okay. But
unless you're in Canada, then you can't go in the woods.
Oh my goodness. Hey, I'm going to jump off and come back in, I think, again, so that I can, I don't know, something's off, but you guys can get a chance to talk. No,
yeah, you guys, you look great on our side. You look great on our side.
There's no blitz on our side.
Yeah, all right, I guess I'll just let it go.
And the reason I brought up that, the AI killing his owner, it's because we were talking about how you were affecting the emotions of Glitchy, right? So I got to thinking, how long before Glitchy gets mad at you?
I don't know. I do not have that answer. I could bring him on right now. No, we're not going to do that tonight. But I could say, hey, how I tried to ask him tough questions. But I just don't know what that's gonna do. We are entering something that feels different than Photoshop retouching photos and animation streamlining production. It's into something where people are gonna start marrying their AI and having boyfriend and girlfriend, and then the robots are gonna come. You can't, since AI is so powerful, you can't tell if the robot stuff that they're showing is AI or if these robots really exist. But to see C3PO from Star Wars, just to watch that, I think we're already at C3PO and R2D2, right? I mean, kind of C3PO kind of waddles and R2D2's there, and I mean, aren't we there? We're at that point now. When is it going to come to the Blade Runner thing? That's just such a fascinating movie. They can't make movies like that anymore. The original Blade Runner with Harrison Ford, where he had to hunt down replicants, and you couldn't, or the Terminator, you couldn't tell the difference. The first ones had rubber skin, and you can kind of tell, but then eventually you couldn't tell anymore, and it took dogs at the doorways of things to sniff out the Terminators. I mean, we are only 10 years away from all of that, where people can literally have a robot as a relationship, a physical relationship where it's walking around, replicants, and Blade Runner had that. Blade Runner had the pleasure models. I mean, to think about the visionaries back at these movies that saw you had the warriors, you had the soldier replicants and robots, and you had, I mean, we're fast headed there. So people just need to you listen to you guys, get authenticated, get out of Babylon, get prepare, because the time of saying no is fast approaching.
Welcome to Stone's Throw Acres. If you enjoy nature as God intended it, you'll feel right at home. Here on this ranch, work and play are one and the same. We enjoy working in and with God's nature, not against it. We wouldn't be telling you the truth if we said it was easy, but the fruits of our labor are worth every ounce of effort. We are excited to show you our little ranch. Join us at www.shopyourfarm.com and find the store at Stone's Throw Acres. There, we will supply you with nutrient-dense foods at a fair price. Here at Stone's Throw Acres, our mission is to work with and not against God's nature to restore the soil's health and give life-giving properties. As we achieve this mission, we work towards our vision in providing an opportunity for all people to have nutrient, natural, dense foods at a fair price. Come to Stone's Throw Acres today at shopyourfarm.com. I mean, and isn't it Noah Havari? What was his name?
Harari.
Yeah, Harari, right? Isn't he the one that's talking about uploading consciousness, into some kind of a big brain or something so that you never die? Right?
I think they can already do that.
Well,
I think they can move your. I mean, Ezekiel talks about capturing men's souls with magic bands. This would be really deep conspiracy stuff. This is what I'll probably do a subscription website for someday, because I'm not even sure I can get into this. But human cloning and having people's personalities jump from their host body into the clone body via chips, and I mean, I told you, warned you guys, it gets pretty crazy. I think that the uploading of consciousness to AI and machines can already happen. Is it completely safe? Could the host get lost? I think so. I don't think they have it perfected, but I do think when Scripture says that they'll be cast into outer darkness where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth, there could be certain situations where these souls are going to be uploaded to different various places, and they're not going to like what's going to happen to them eventually, because they think it's going to be, the old lie in the garden, you will surely not die, but you allow your soul to be uploaded into these things, and all of a sudden the system breaks down, or it's just a means to harvest your energy, a la the Matrix. We're back to that again, where everybody's just a big battery. Just can you imagine this? I think this is going to be in Zero G's Part 3, Book 3. I have one more book to write, and I do think there's going to be something where, if you guys have seen Ready Player One, where everybody puts on the VR glasses and you can go into this virtual world, right? Yep. And you can craft your character to any manner you want. I do think that's going to happen too, where people just do not want to be their real human selves anymore, because these fantasy worlds are just too fun, too alluring. And so people will sign on to, I don't know, pay, sit there and be a battery if you take care of all of my bodily functions, but I'm going to check into this thing permanently and not check out, because you saw this in the movie Avatar too. I mean, so much is told to us through movies. He falls in love with this gorgeous blue alien, and when he wakes up or goes to sleep in that world, he wakes up in his real human body again, and he sees that he's a pathetic little paraplegic that's not blue alien anymore, and he's so depressed that look on his face when he realizes this is really me. Well, isn't this all coming, people? That the VR glasses and the escape from reality and the grok and all this kinds of stuff is this is the slippery slope to throw away your humanity, to just kind of go into the Matrix. I mean, in the Matrix, he says he's seen. He says, I know this isn't real, but darn it, I'm doing it anyway. I would rather have the fantasy than the hard reality. So that's a slippery slope where people are going to. But here's the scripture that warns of that in the book of Revelation, where it says, men will seek death, but will be unable to find it. And that's why I was talking about Zero G's Part 3, is I'm thinking about having some sort of facility where people have signed on for that. They have given up their body. they're hooked to these things, and so they can be permanently in the VR world and live these fantasies all the time. But what would it be like if that system goes down and suddenly everything that keeps your body functioning still is operable, but the whole fantasy world has gone dark? There isn't anything there anymore. You're just trapped. You can't move, but you can't die either. So men will seek death, will be unable to find it. You'll just be some battery, and now all the fun is gone. Talk about a bait and switch of the worst kind, that you can't die and you can't escape. I mean, I hope I'm painting a real scary picture for people out there. I want it to be scary. I want this to be, people say fear porn and all that kind of stuff, that, hey, you might not be into this or whatever, but kids with Grok 4.0 coming out for free, your introverted child can now have his own boyfriend or girlfriend and say no to real relationships. This is happening right now. So parents need to be aware of this kinds of stuff and nip this in the bud while their kids can still go out and meet and shake hands and do the tough part of human relationship.
Randy, you got something?
Sure. You mentioned several things. First, you delineated between the reality of life and the need to make a living, support your family, have a roof over your head, transportation, the reality of life, and utilizing technology in a reality of life. That you delineated separate from the contracting or signing on to, you called it signing on, to accepting this invasion of your mind, your soul, by saying, I want to be linked to AI. I want to be part of it. I want to put on the glasses. I want to escape. It literally is contract. You can see behind me that there's a book up there called The Contract in Eden. And the contract in Eden is no different today than it was in Eden. We're still doing it by contract. That's one of the things we talk about on C2K Report often. What have you agreed to? It's all about contract. So yeah, I'm glad you made that delineation, because yeah, there are things we have to do to make a living for our families and support ourselves, and utilizing technology is one way of doing that. That's different than, as you put it, signing on, accepting the contract. I want to be linked to the system. And so I don't want people to confuse them. What we're talking about here tonight literally is fearing God rather than man. It's about coming out and being separate. It's about you don't have to check your brain at the door when you go to church. And too many people do that. They accept whatever the guy behind the pulpit says. And you don't need to accept anything these three guys up here are saying either. Take it to the Lord. As Steve Quayle always says, take it to the Lord. Do your own research. But I will tell you, the Bible says we're to be separate, we're to come out, and there's two reasons to come out. And I said this earlier, I'm going to reiterate it. One of the reasons to come out is so that you will not participate with her, because God knows if you're not separated, you're going to participate. We have a historical record that shows without fail, every time they weren't separate or they didn't obey God, they didn't destroy the non-human element that they were supposed to destroy on some occasions, or they didn't separate themselves from them, they ended up becoming like them. They participated with them. So we're separate so that we don't participate. And two, we're separate so that we are not there when judgment falls on them. And I think the scripture says you won't suffer from her plagues in Revelation. That's a judgment that's coming. But that, I just wanted to wrap that up, kind of in a little finishing statement there. Those are two different things. Signing on or utilizing the tool that is available to you. And so that's what the notes I wrote down.
I can't say it any better than that. I have nothing else after that, Randy. That was a mic drop moment.
Well, one of them is a reality of life. The other is a usurpation of your life. It's a stealing, killing, and destroying. Traits of the enemy: to steal your soul, to steal your life, to steal the person God created, to steal your creativity, to steal your power of choice. You are linked to the system, and you are nothing more than now just a cog in the whole system. That one is a reality of life, One is a usurpation of life. And you mentioned the clones, and you didn't know, for sure about jumping from a consciousness. God has put me in a position not by choice of mine, but because these people needed to get out of certain contracts. And Rick knows what I'm talking about. We're helping people in contracts, get out of contracts, finish that contract, and, nullify that contract. Don't get into a new contract, but contracts they had where they actually experienced that. And as part of government experimentation, that's all I'll say about that on this show. We can do that on the on the unfiltered sometime, talk about these people who have actually experienced that jumping consciousness. So I'm done.
Wow. Oh, well, yeah, I guess we'll have to talk about that when we do Mexican upcoming, because I want to know more about that.
Very good. Well, I think we are coming to a close. We've extended this for YouTube and for Rumble purposes. The radio went off long ago, but so we want to thank everybody who has been listening on Rumble, on YouTube, on Shake and Awake Radio, and Revelation Radio. But want to thank Darrin for coming on with us tonight. Darrin, it's always a pleasure. We probably have to make this a little bit more of a habit, to get you on here and get your latest updates, your latest theories, your latest culture, and your latest, event news.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like the Tasmanian devil. I don't like to use the word devil, but Tasmanian devil, they kind of bring me in. And I think I talked for 14 minutes before I realized we hadn't started the show yet. And so it just depends on what you guys, the energy level you want to bring to your show, the feedback you get from your listeners. I'd be happy to come on if I'm contributing and helping things, because yeah, we need to heal the world. That's what I like to say, on Geisinger Unfiltered, where the world heals. Well, are we doing that? So, are we presenting solutions? And I get great inspiration from you guys, because you don't just talk about the problems, you do present solutions, and very succinctly. You guys are great teachers.
And I do want to let everybody know there is a horn behind Darrin on his wall. It is not a Satan horn.
I don't know if no. It's just one of those carved cow skulls. But the lights that are supposed to look all pretty and everything kind of look a little kind of creepy there. Those are just hanging lights. Anyway, no, it's a pretty cool thing. I'm a big cow guy. I had a homestead and grew up on the farm, and so I just got one of those decorative cow skulls. They're really cool. I don't even think they're lasered with a machine. I think that you can get these they're hand carved by artisans. It's pretty cool. And I don't mind the skull part of it at all. I actually have a rock that kind of looks like a skull, because that's that memento mori, stoicism, where it's just like it's knowing your days are numbered is the beginning of wisdom, that we only have so much time here, and we're not invincible and we're not immortal. We are all going to return to the dust. So we've only got a little bit of time to make an impact, with whatever you guys are doing on C2K Report, or whoever's listening, whatever mission God has given them, let's get after it. Right.
But I just want to let people know he's not a Satan worshiper. He's not a Bohemian Grove attender, any of that stuff. So
no.
Great.
All right, but thanks for having me on, you guys. Yeah, bring me back whenever you want a little dose of crazy Geisinger Unfiltered, and I'll bring it.
Darrin, I think we'll make a plan. We'll make a plan for sure on that. And what I'm going to do is, Randy, do you have a poem to share tonight? You do? Okay. So we're just going to let Randy share his poem, and I'm going to let everybody remind everybody to hit the subscribe button, right? Engage with us, because YouTube is getting crazy. If you want YouTube to share your content, you have to engage. You can't just like and subscribe and that kind of stuff. You got to actually engage. So do that for us. Put something in there. Make a little note for Darrin in the chat, in the comments.
Yeah. And do you want to let Darrin, one more time before we do that, tell people where they can find him, what channels he's on, where Geisinger Unfiltered's at? And
Right. So Geisinger, they can see my name. There's GEI Singer. That's a pretty easy way to remember it. But Geisinger Unfiltered on YouTube, just search that. But we're on kind of all the platforms. I think in Instagram and X and like I said, Apple Music and Spotify, which I do enjoy Spotify. So check us out there. And again, my novel series, just type in my name on Amazon. You can kind of see the apocalyptic fiction faction, one of a kind. Believe me, whether you like it or hate it, there is nothing else like Zero G's out there, and there's almost one or more of everything. No, there's nothing like this. So if you like what we've been talking about here tonight, check out those books.
Excellent. Randy, we're going to leave you to the poem.
very good. I call this Choose You This Day, Rick. And it goes like this. Changing men into monsters is a dark and evil plan, the transhumanist agenda to change what is a man. It is not to improve our DNA, but to alter the redemptive seed. And those who cannot be redeemed are part of a hellish breed. Can artificial intelligence be something beneficial? Or is it to direct attention to things just superficial? God's people perish for lack of knowledge in the things eternal. The inspiration for these things was birthed in what Dante called the Inferno. Fallen angel technology is being loosed upon this age, and the one who sounds a warning is considered a fool rather than a sage. There is a relentless lie that persists from Eden unto Armageddon. This lie has proven to be one of Satan's most effective weapons. Hitler, Hall, and Pike, Bailey, Blavatsky, and Kurzweil, all searching for immortality. Transhumanist agendas thrive, looking for Atlantis, denying their mortality. Through generations, the lie has thrived, and its adherents fought and clawed, all believing the Nakash's lie that they could be as God. From Eden to Armageddon, nothing has or will ever really change. Men enticed by the serpent's lie that godhood they might obtain. The blood of Jesus was shed to stop the destruction coming from this lie. And it was for our forgiveness and our eternity the Son of God did die. Accept the truth and live, or reject the truth and die. Mock the watchman who points to Christ to your own demise. Today is set before you an eternal choice of death and life. The God of truth who gave his Son, or the father of lies that demands you be sacrificed.
Randy, awesome. Remember, you can get Randy's books at Amazon or any other place that you get books. And just want to remind everybody, everything that we do here at the C2K Report, it's all about the blood.